I think it was that age-old adage that Lincoln said, if you had 8 hours to chop a tree down, he'd spend the first 6 sharpening the axe. It's really important to get that preparation in place really early on. Otherwise, again, things can just escalate and spiral out of control really quickly.
So do you have any specific examples of that, Tim?
Yes, there was one actually I was involved with, and I joined sort of about 18 months into a program, which obviously is quite a long time. You can imagine an awful lot of water had gone under the bridge by that stage. And, when I joined the business, it looked pretty good actually, on the surface anyway, that the business seemed to be pretty engaged in all the program, et cetera, et cetera. But, you start picking away and, definitely some warning signs around the edges more and more that the tech side seemed to be driving most of the day-to-day activity on the business, which clearly, obviously, the technology guys play such a massive part. They have to be, super, super engaged. But it was the fact that it was like they were driving the program pretty much full stop. And, clearly they were way over where they expected to be from a cash burn point of view, which, you can argue, well, is that good? Is it bad? And the more we got into it, it didn't look and feel right given the level of cash burn. The scope coming out was sort of not what they were really looking for. The scope seemed a bit off, and actually the more I got into it, actually the scope was quite significantly off. And there were two fundamental issues really when you get into it. One was, once again, back to alignment. When I went around all of the key business stakeholders, they all had a quite different view of what this thing was and what it was there to do. So it's like, crikey, that's not good. You really want really strong alignment at the top, and it wasn't there. But then just to make matters worse, actually, it was the tech guys who were actually driving the day-to-day scope of the program. They were the ones writing the use cases and filling the backlog. They were doing all of that work. And it was like, where's the business in all of this? Why are they not writing this? Are there no product owners, for instance, on the business side doing all of this work? And there just wasn't. And you pick them all away, and actually the business just didn't have the set of capabilities. So they thought it was fine to have a broad view of what this thing was like at the very top, but of course that wasn't aligned either. Then they just expected this thing to go get delivered. Actually, they would check in, every month or so, and it would all be okay. And clearly it wasn't. And, it turned out that they were, once we'd really understood the level of cash burn, they were massively over budget. And essentially they'd gone and built mostly the wrong thing. It was not, I can really remember the time very well. It was very, very painful. You can imagine the level of board conversation was pretty tough and pretty challenging as you're going and presenting the cold facts and the fact that probably, most likely, we were going to have to stop. We may be able to reuse some of the, the software components and some of the delivery stuff so far, but the chances are of reusing all of it was highly unlikely. And we had to go back and actually do the early phases properly and get the alignment of what this was. And the more we got into it, actually, we did get the alignment, and actually that wasn't too bad in the end, but we actually found we'd actually selected the wrong tech product. So the thing that we'd been spending all of this time customizing around, trying to get it to do something that it wasn't really set up to do, was just actually the wrong thing. And actually the scope of this thing was just something, quite different, of course. So obviously we had to redo the investment case. And of course, at that point, rubber really hits the road. A lot of very, very tough, very frantic conversations. And of course, it really is impacting people's careers, but, you have to get into it and you have to have those really hard conversations. But we came through it. We delivered a whole stack of stuff, and, we went live, and all was good. And, despite some massive, massive bumps in the road, the business actually came out in very good shape post all of it.
You've been listening to the Practicus Digital Transformation Podcast.
And you can find a link to the full podcast recording on the Insights page at practicus.com.